All right. So, welcome to Self-Care for Educators During Uncertain Times. I am Dr. Tiffany Row. Thanks so much for joining me and taking this time to invest in yourself. I'm very proud of you for doing that. It's so necessary. Before we begin, I'll just go over kind of a little introduction. This pandemic has uprooted our entire educational system. Teachers have been on the front lines expected to keep teaching, which required you to learn new technology and uh, immediately completely dismantle the way that you teach and start teaching in a brand new way. And now many of you are teaching in person, depending on the school that you're at, while still managing distance learning students and maybe even your own education. And maybe you're feeling a little uneasy, a little scared about exposure risk. Some of you have spouses that have lost their jobs, so you're dealing with a change of income, not to mention just adjusting to the collective changes in the way that we live our lives. So I just wanted to kind of validate, what's been going on for teachers and let you know that I see you and I appreciate you very much. And because of all of that, we're concerned you and your well-being. So over the next maybe 45 minutes or so, I'll leave a little time at the end in case there's questions. I'm going to share several different self-care strategies and guide you in choosing some that will work for your unique needs, schedule, and lifestyle. Effective self-care is crucial, and it's not just like a day at the spa. It's more than diet and exercise. Those are important, but it's a daily set of practices, and they can be super simple to work into your schedule, require very little effort, but they can help you go from surviving to thriving. I am passionate about this topic. It's a personal passion of mine because I came to a place where I really needed to start practicing self-care because I was having some health issues, some pain. I was having daily migraine headaches, and it was getting to the point where I wasn't fully functioning. I wasn't at my best. I mean, how can you be when there's so much pain? And so I really dove in to the topic of self-care on that personal level. And I developed a self-care routine that really works for me. And now, I am living a much better life, better, really functioning at my best. And then I realized, I started hearing the statistics about special educators. I mean, I had heard this before, but special educators especially have a high level of burnout. They burn out at a rate of about 50% within the first 5 years. And I realized that teachers, all teachers, and especially special education teachers, really need to practice self-care because you work so hard in our program. You work so hard to break into this field and start your career. And it breaks my heart to know that 50% of special educators tend to leave the field within those first 5 years. And so with better self-care, taking better care of ourselves, then that will help you to thrive long-term in this career. Not only keep your career, but feel good and feel happy while you're doing it. Be thriving. Okay, so let's get started. I am going to go over into the chat right now and post let's see. I'm going to post there it is, Google Docs, a link to several files in Google Docs. Two of those files are titled Self-Care Plan 1 and Self-Care Plan 2. So I want you to choose one and use it to take notes throughout the presentation. And I will also direct you to some of the other files. There's 4 more files, so it's a total of 6. 3 files are assessments that I'll have you do in a little bit, And one is just a file of good takeaway ideas called Portable Practices for Promoting Self-Care. And then I think the last one is, or maybe there's another, and then there's also this PowerPoint. So go ahead, download them, save them. I'll give you a couple of minutes to do that while I kind of introduce what we're going to do, the agenda. First, I'm going to talk about why self-care is so important. And it's the reason I do that is because if we don't understand why, then self-care becomes really easy to push aside. So we have to understand the purpose and the importance of it. So I'm going to share some information with you about that. And then we'll identify, you'll identify your own unique self-care needs, because your plan for self-care is going to look different from the next teacher's plan for self-care or my plan for self-care. It's going to be based on your own needs and your preferences. And then I'll talk about a whole bunch of different self-care strategies that you can choose from to try to integrate into your life. And then we'll talk about creating a plan and sticking to it. So I really like this graphic, and I'm going to share several graphics that I pulled off of Instagram. And this one is from E. Marushian, and she does a lot of self-care. I follow a lot of self-care accounts, or accounts that focus on self-care and other things like that on Instagram. Because for me, I like to just take a break. I think like a lot of people do, right? I like to take a break and just scroll through my phone a little bit mindlessly. But what we have to remember is even when we're mindlessly scrolling through our phone, information's getting into our brain. And so we want to be careful about what information we're letting into our brain. If we're just mindlessly scrolling through the news, a lot of stress and negativity is going to be making its way into our mental health without our even realizing it. So I like to go on Instagram. I tightly control my Instagram feed. I have an account that I don't even follow any friends on it. I only follow like positive, it doesn't all have to be positive, but like inspirational, self-care, things that are good for me. It's kind of a mental health diet, I guess. Things that I want to get into my brain that are going to make me feel good or put me in a good mindset. So this is one of the accounts that I like to follow. I found this there. It says, you wouldn't let this happen to your phone. Don't let it happen to you either. Self-care is a priority, not a luxury. So you're going to see several, I put several graphics throughout the presentation. And if that looks interesting to you, you can write down some of these people to follow them as well if you think that might work for you too. Okay, so why is self-care so crucial? I'm going to talk about why it's important to our students and why it's important to you personally and to your career. So let's start with the students. Teachers are the social emotional role models in the classroom. And there's actually science behind this. We learn through example, and in neuroscience, we have these things called mirror neurons. You know what neurons are, right? They're in our brains, and mirror neurons are neurons that actually react to how other people are feeling. These neurons pick up on body language and on vibes. Okay, so if you're like, I get a really weird vibe from that person, there's actually science behind that. It's not in your imagination. I mean, I guess sometimes our brain gets in the middle of it, but it's your neurons picking up on something. Perhaps that person's feeling a little off. And sometimes we take that personally when it has nothing to do with us, right? But we pick up on it. Some people have stronger mirror neurons than others. And we tend to have stronger mirror neurons with people that we're close with. So if you've ever home and you can just feel that someone in your family is like in a mood, even though they haven't said anything, or you can just feel it, that's your mirror neurons. And some people, like I said, have very strong mirror neurons. And so they almost absorb other people's feelings. And then that can affect how they feel as well. So sometimes we have to kind of get a handle on our mirror neurons and make sure that we're releasing other people's. But anyways, back to our students. So our students are picking up on how we're feeling. Now you're human. You don't have to feel happy and amazing all the time because you're human. It's okay. It's okay to have some days where you're off. But it's very important to have the emotional regulation that you want to teach to your students. Okay. So when students come into your classroom, you're setting the stage for how they interact with each other. Being able to keep your cool in emotionally heightened situations on a consistent basis is the difference between your students learning how to work together or triggering one another. And that is a skill, being able to keep your cool in emotionally heightened situations on a consistent basis. That is a tall order, and self-care can help. But also learning just that emotional regulation. And that's what we want our students to learn. So the more you have that, then the better your students, the better chance your students are going to have at learning those skills as well. And the primary way that children learn social emotional skills is by being exposed to adult behavior. So if a teacher doesn't have a certain level of social emotional competence to model the behaviors that they want the students to adopt, then you're sending mixed messages. In other words, happy teachers lead to happy students. But like I said, you don't have to be happy all the time. There's actually something called toxic positivity, where if we try too hard to be happy all the time and we don't let ourselves feel all of our feelings, that can actually lead to depression and anxiety because we're suppressing our feelings. So we want to feel our feelings, but self-care can help you feel good more of the time and then manage those more difficult feelings when they do come up. We also know that student achievement increases in calm classrooms. So students who are in calm, consistent environments where they feel safe, they make greater academic gains. And that calm consistency starts with teachers. Having your own self-care regimen allows you to stay consistent all year long. And in terms of you, chronic unmanaged stress leads to physical and mental health problems. We know this. And these could include high blood pressure, stomach ulcers, suppressed immune system, anxiety, depression, and in my case, fatigue and headaches. And the thing is that stress in teaching is chronic by nature. So we can't change that part. We can't take away the stress. That's part of the job, but we can learn to manage it better. So in other words, secure your own oxygen mask before assisting children. Without self-care, you risk being a less effective teacher and compromising your health, happiness, and overall well-being. But teachers really struggle to prioritize self-care. Good reasons behind that. It sounds selfish. People hear self-care and it sounds like something very luxurious, too luxurious to prioritize or too selfish. It's not though. It's not selfish. It's actually an act of selflessness because you will be better able to serve others when you prioritize taking care of yourself. It's also easy to put off. It's easy to put off until your body or mind shuts down and forces you to rest. We tend to think that busy is normal. It is normal, but that doesn't mean that it's healthy, right? And it's hard to say no to people and things that we care about, and teachers care very deeply. It sounds overwhelming, like one more thing to do. You're already overwhelmed, you've already got a million things to do, and I need to take care of myself. That's one more thing. But self-care can be free, take just a few minutes a day, and it can mean the difference between surviving and thriving. So it's definitely worth the investment, and it doesn't need to be something overwhelming. I really like this quote right here. Break the habit of only attending to yourself when you are in crisis. A better strategy is regular attention and self-care so that you can avoid crisis, or the crisis won't be quite so hard to deal with when you get to it if you've been taking care of yourself on a consistent basis. And this one really hits home for me as well. Resting isn't resting if you're feeling guilty about resting. I had to let go of guilt about rest. I don't know if you guys have experienced that. So I used to, sit down for a few minutes or an hour or even take a whole Saturday and just do nothing. And I would feel so guilty about it. Well, if you're feeling guilty, then you're not getting what you need to get out of the rest. We need to rest. We're not machines. So cancel guilt. It's done. Canceled. No more guilt. Resting. Because when you're resting, you're doing a good, healthy thing for yourself. So you really should be patting yourself on the back. All right. So now I'm going to ask you to open up some of those files. And you can go ahead and just hit pause. Or no, I'm sorry. If you're watching this live, go ahead and open it up, and I'll give you a few minutes I want you to first take the VERT test and then choose one of the other assessments to take. Okay, so I'm actually going to pause the recording, give my live attendees a few minutes to complete these assessments, and then we'll come back and then we'll have some information. You will have information to help you identify what you need to do for self-care. Okay, so go ahead, my live attendees, open those up and start. And those of you who are watching this recorded webinar, I'm sorry that I can't get you these files, but I will say, I'll go ahead and just tell you the VERT test is going to assess whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. So you can find a test online pretty easily. And I'll talk a little bit more about why I'm having you do that, what that has to do with self-care. And then you can also just Google self-care assessment or self-care needs check or something like that. There's a lot of assessments online. So I encourage you to take those. Let's see. Actually, instead of pausing it, I'm going to share it with you so that I can show you, for those of you who are watching this, pre-recorded. Let me just find it. It is, sorry, it's on my computer and I can pull it right up, and I'm going to just show you one of them. Okay. Here we go. Share my screen. Okay, so this is one of them, and it is checking your basic needs. So self-care needs: do I get enough sleep? Do I eat a balanced diet? Do I spend a little time in nature each week? Do I get enough sunlight? Do I see my doctor once a year? It goes over a whole bunch of different things. And I adapted this from Loudon 1992 and Richardson 2000. I kind of combined a couple just to make a simpler, like one page kind of a thing. But if you want to, you could, look something up similar and find it. Let me show you the other one. Okay, here's the other one that they are looking at right now. Okay, self-care assessment. This one's a little bit different, but it goes over physical self-care, psychological self-care, emotional self-care, spiritual self-care, relationship self-care, workplace self-care, and overall balance. And I like that one because then you can really see, like, oh, okay, I'm doing great in my relationships, but oh, I need more emotional self-care. I need more physical or, workplace self-care. So those, I think, are really helpful. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint and then I'm going to just go ahead and pause the recording for a couple more minutes and let our live attendees finish up those assessments. Okay, and we're back. And if you're still taking those assessments, that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and move on though. So here is a nice way to also sum up different areas of self-care. You could even use this to do a very quick assessment. Physical self-care includes like adequate sleep and rest, drinking water, nourishing food, stretching, and exercise. Mental self-care can include things like positive affirmations, practicing mindfulness, watching the content that you consume, and reading. Emotional self-care includes setting healthy boundaries. That's something that I've really had to take a lot of time to learn better. And I've come a long way, I'm glad to say. Spending time with loved ones, dancing and singing, play, art and music. And then spiritual self-care includes things like inspiration, meditation, time in nature, and prayer. So let me get back to the tests. So I want to talk about why I had you take a test on whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, or if you're right in the middle or kind of in a middle range, then psychologists are now calling that an ambivert. You're right in the middle. But the reason is the main difference between introverts and extroverts get energized through social interaction. Okay, they need social interaction. Whereas introverts need alone time. They get energized and recharged with alone time and quieter activities. And so that is so important for you to understand so that you can practice the appropriate self-care. If you're an introvert and you're going out all the time, go, 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 you're super busy and your friends invite you to happy hour Friday night, so you say yes and you go, and then a friend, you go to a friend's birthday party on Saturday, and then you got to start work the next week, then you're going to burn out. I know this from personal experience. I was kind of a closeted introvert for a lot of my life. I just thought that, we were all supposed to be extroverts because it looked like everybody was extroverts. And so I was really forcing myself to do a lot more socialization than was healthy for me. I like to socialize. I like to spend time with friends and family and do fun things, but I need a break. I need to recharge. I can do, really my happy place is maybe a couple of things a month, like to do socially. Everybody's different. But at this stage in my life, at my age and just where I'm at, that's my happy place, is like 2 social engagements a month. And if I go longer than that, then I'm kind of bummed. I want to see friends. I mean, the pandemic's been hard in that way as well. Probably not as hard on extroverts. Same thing with extroverts. I really feel for the extroverts during this pandemic, because I imagine, it would be like if I was forced to socialize all the time. That would be really hard for me as an introvert. The extroverts have had to reduce their socialization huge. So when extroverts are cooped up in the house and they haven't, been talking to anybody or seeing anybody for a long time, then their mental health can really start to suffer as well. And if nobody's really 100% one way or the other. Even introverts, we need some social time, and extroverts sometimes need a little bit of alone time as well. But it's the amount that's important that you know. So you've got to know yourself. If you're an ambivert, then you need a good balance of both. So that test, the results of that test should help you know what kind of self-care you need to practice, whether you need more time in nature, time to spend with your favorite books, or whether you need to have lunch with your best friend and have weekly happy hour or something like that, when we're able to do that again, that's what will help what will meet your needs the best. And then the other assessments just give you another idea of different areas that you need more self-care in, like I went over this before. So there's one more assessment that I want you to do, and this is called 2-minute reflective journaling. I like to do it on the Notes app of my phone. So you can just open up a Notes app, or you can use a pen and paper. And I'm going to set a 2-minute timer right now. So those of you who are watching this recorded, you can do this along with us. And I want you to just answer 2 questions. Just free write. Don't think much about it, okay? Let this come from like your intuitive, knowing inside part of yourself. I want you to answer, how do I feel and what do I need? And this can be very, very telling. Okay, so I'm starting a 2-minute timer right now. Okay, and you can finish up your last couple sentences and stop. So the 2-minute reflective journaling, I love it. Okay. And this graphic, I think just says it all, right? Before journaling, we've got so much going on in our mind. And that's a lot to carry around. It's hard to do our best when we have so much happening up in our minds, especially if you're a deep thinker type, or almost an overthinker type. And then after journaling, we get it all out and our head feels clearer. So the 2-minute reflective journaling is not only an assessment that you can do on the fly anytime. If you're just feeling off and it's like, oh gosh, what do I need to do to feel better? What do I need to do to face, this day and have a good day? 2-minute reflective journaling is a great way to do that, but it's also a self-care practice in and of itself, as illustrated in this graphic right here, just to get our thoughts down so that we can face our day with a clearer mind. I like to do this. I think of it as, I was telling you earlier, I like to relax and scroll through my phone sometimes, right? Take a little break and scroll through my phone. You could replace one session of checking your phone with 2-minute reflective journaling. And like I said, you can do it on the Notes app in your phone. So it's super, super easy, super simple. Okay. So now I'm going to go over several different self-care strategies. But first, things to think about when you're choosing self-care habits that are right for you. You want to choose habits that you think you can maintain as a long-term routine. But if you choose a habit and then you don't stick with it, don't beat yourself up. maybe it wasn't quite the right habit for you, or maybe you need to set a reminder. I set reminders in my phone to do certain self-care practices. So, maybe you just need to have a better reminder system of yourself, or maybe you chose that habit, but you actually should choose a different one. Okay. So don't beat yourself up, but try to choose habits that you can maintain, habits that will have a meaningful impact on your well being. You want to consider your personal needs, assess your habits regularly, and adjust accordingly. Okay. And so, a few ideas is leaving work at work. I know when I was teaching elementary school, I would just bring home so much emotional stuff because teaching it's emotional, right? It is everything. It's physical, it's intellectual, and it's emotional, it's spiritual. You give so much, and there's so much happening, and you take on so much. And then you bring it home. It's hard to like separate it and lift all of that off your shoulders so you can actually relax and start the next day fresh. So here are some kind of practical tips to do that. And I got this from a website called The Cornerstone for Teachers, and it was a podcast called How to Leave Work at Work. So I didn't come up with these. I found these really good ideas, and I want to share them with you. Some teachers find changing their clothes as soon as they get home helps. And I used to do that. I would get home and put on my pajamas right away, even though I was still hours away from bedtime. But it just kind of signaled, okay, it's time to relax and get really comfy. Um, and then sometimes you might schedule a commitment right after school that forces you to disconnect from work. So for a while, I would go to the gym right after school before I got home. And that was really helpful too. It just forced me to disconnect. And the physical exercise was good too. But otherwise, you could meet a friend for coffee or something like that. You can use your drive home to process your day and then get into a positive headspace. Okay, so like if you're somebody who needs to think about all those loose ends, right? It's kind of hard to just switch it off. Like all this stuff happened and you need to process it. You can give yourself a few minutes. You don't have to force yourself to just get in the car and let it all go. Give yourself a few minutes to go over those loose ends, or even just stew about something that happened that made you mad. Fine, do it. Maybe set a timer though. And then when you're done or when the timer goes off, consciously let it go. You can repeat a mantra such as, my work today is done. What's left undone will still be there tomorrow, so I don't have to think about it anymore tonight. When you actually say that, either in your head or out loud, or maybe you have it written somewhere, it really helps. It really helps to actually disconnect. And then you can switch your focus. So you can kind of make that conscious detachment, disconnection, and then switch your focus maybe to an audiobook or music or a podcast, or call a friend for the rest of your drive. Okay, but drive safe. And then you can also have a short mindfulness ritual as soon as you get home. You don't have to do all of these things. You might just pick one, or maybe you have something that you think would work for you. But you could pick one, you could pick a couple. But another idea is to have a mindfulness ritual, such as drinking a cup of tea, slowly, mindfully, really smell the tea, taste the tea, just feel the warm cup in your hands. Maybe you sit outside and notice, the visuals around you, do some mindful deep breaths, or maybe do a guided meditation. And then some people like to release any pent up frustration with exercise or yoga, or rocking out to loud music on that drive home. Deep breathing and meditations, I mentioned this just now in the last slide, really, really effective way to just help settle your mind and body and help you feel better. I can't stress this enough. I mean, these things, deep breathing or meditations, they're free. They can take as little as 2 or 3 minutes, or you can stretch it out for an hour if you want to. You can even do it like as you're falling asleep. Sometimes that's what I do, but they're free. They take very little effort, and they're available everywhere online for free, and they're effective. So you can search Google or YouTube for things like 3-minute body scan. And then you just put on headphones if you have them, or just play it on your phone. Sit back, close your eyes, and do a 3-minute body scan. It's basically just goes over, has you pay attention to like every area of your body. And as you do that, your body naturally relaxes. But you can also, it's kind of another assessment where you can identify areas where you're feeling tense. Oh, I didn't even know. Sometimes I don't even realize, oh gosh, I was holding so much tension in my shoulders or even in my face. And I don't realize it until I bring mindfulness to that place. And then I can release it. You can, any issue that you're having, okay, if you're stressed, if you're anxious, if you need to relax, if you're tense, if you're feeling depressed, anything, you search for the thing plus the number of minutes that you have, and you will find a meditation, a guided meditation. So if you have 5 minutes and you're feeling anxious, you can search 5-minute anxiety meditation, and you'll have your choice of different meditations to help you. And then also there's insomnia guided meditations. I've used those before, and I find them really helpful. You just turn it on as you're trying to fall asleep. Another idea, and you don't need any guided meditation for these, is belly breaths. So you focus on breathing into your belly and breathing out, breathing in through your nose and into your belly. You can even put your hand on your belly to bring attention to that place, to like your gut, right? When they talk about listen to your gut, they're really talking about, there's some meditation theories believe that our wise mind is located in our gut. So you put your hand on your gut, envision breathing in peace, and then breathe out of your mouth, breathe out what no longer serves you. Or if you're one of those people with those strong mirror neurons, you can breathe in peace and breathe out what doesn't belong to you. All the stuff you picked up from other people that got stuck inside of your body, you can breathe that out. Just do a few minutes of that. I like this one a lot. It's called Deep Breaths Using Shapes. I got it from a book called Coping Skills for Kids, and it's great for adults too. But oh my gosh, I love this book. I think it's around $20 on Amazon. You can use it with your students. You can use it with your own children at home. So many good skills for just helping kids learn emotional regulation, but also really good for anyone. So the one that I always remember, it's called Square Deep Breaths. And so what you would do is, I'm going to draw a square with my fingers, okay? So you can see me up there, right? So what you would do is you're gonna breathe in for 4 seconds. You go up one side of the square, hold for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, okay? Let's do 3 of those together. I wanna do 3 so that you can really see, pay attention to how you feel afterwards, okay? Ready? So if you can see me up there, follow my finger and breathe in. Hold, breathe out, hold. Breathe in, hold, breathe out, hold. Last one. Breathe in, hold, breathe out, hold. Good. Now pay attention to how you feel. I feel a lot more relaxed. This works so great with kids. Kids can do it like on their hand. You know, you can kind of make it a sensory activity. They could do it in sand. They could just do it on their desk. Let's draw, let's do some square breaths. And you just teach them how to draw those squares. And then that's something they can do all by themselves if they ever need to. And finally, there's so many apps. Some of them are paid and some of them have some free content. Headspace, Calm, those are pretty popular ones that I feel that I hear a lot about. Mindfulness Coach. And one that I like to fall asleep to is called Barbara Clark's Beyond Affirmations. There's one on there that I love. And then I've also bought a couple of the paid ones. But those are just a few apps that you might be interested in. And then also self-compassion is another act of self-care. So self-compassion is recognizing that something's really hard and asking, how can I comfort and care for myself right now? So instead of judging and criticizing yourself, which you may have been programmed to do, so many people use self-judgment and self-criticism and you don't even realize it, okay? And it might have come from somebody significant in your life growing up. Maybe your self-talk came from the talk that you heard growing up when you were having big feelings, okay? It's helpful to recognize where that voice is coming from so that you can detach from it and develop a more compassionate self-talk. So self-compassion is using kindness and understanding toward yourself. Self-kindness versus self-judgment. And that's much better for you. You're going to feel much better when you can adjust your self-talk. You want to talk to yourself with all the support and loving kindness that you would with a child or a good friend or someone you love. So I got this from this next quote and some of these ideas from a psychologist called Kristen Neff. And she is the self-compassion person. She has a website called selfcompassion.org with a little dash in between. You can see it down here, selfcompassion.org. And she does a lot specifically for teachers. So this was an example of how a teacher should talk to themselves, perhaps, if they've had a rough day. Just kind of a script that you could start with. Sometimes it's helpful to have the exact words or a script to start with, but as we're learning this new way of talking to ourselves. So it goes like this. I'm so sorry you had a rough day. Even though you may have said some things to students you wish you hadn't, it's okay. All teachers do that once in a while, but the students survive and so will you. I know you care so much about your students and want them to be successful. Teaching is one of the most challenging jobs out there, and you're doing the best you can. So you could even write yourself a letter of self-compassion and make it specific to what happened in your day or what you're feeling. You can keep a self-compassion journal where you write these things often. Again, this would be something I might put a reminder in my phone to do, like, every Friday afternoon after the kids leave and you've had a week, even if it's a good week, it can be an overwhelming week, and you write yourself just a 1-paragraph letter of self-compassion. You can also do a compassionate self-squeeze, which is, you could just do this anywhere, where you kind of cross your arms and just give yourself a little hug. And then I like this: breathe in compassion, breathe out compassion. And it's actually breathe in compassion for yourself, breathe out compassion for another person. So if there's a student that's just driving you crazy, or a parent that's causing a lot of stress, or another teacher, or somebody on the road who just flipped you off, you can just breathe in compassion for yourself and then breathe out compassion for that other person, because they're being difficult or whatever, but they're having a hard time as well. They might be giving you a hard time, but they're also having a hard time themselves. So breathe out compassion, and that can just really help kind of bring our level of stress down to something more manageable. So you can check out that website, Kristen Neff's website, for more exercise and activities if you are interested. Next, I'm going to talk about honoring our feelings. So I loved that movie, Inside Out, because it's a good movie, but also it's such a great example of emotional regulation and how to honor our feelings. So people tend to do a couple of different things with their feelings. On one hand, they might stifle them or stuff them down, suppress them, right? Because they're inconvenient, we don't have time. right? We don't have time for this sadness. We don't have time for this anger and this anxiety. So we can ignore our feelings sometimes, but that only makes them worse, makes them bigger. They start to fester and get stronger until we start to have physical ailments or emotional issues, or we just maybe explode, right? So you don't want to do that. But another thing that people do on the opposite side of the spectrum is let their feelings take over and run the show. As you can see right here, she is in charge. The feelings are over here. These guys are the feelings. She's the one in charge. We don't want to let any one of these take over the driver's seat because they're horrible drivers, okay? But we also don't want to just push them aside. We want to honor our feelings. So we need to listen to them because they have very important information to share with us. And then take that information into consideration as we make good, wise decisions from our wise mind. So she is the wise mind here. And they are the emotions, the important emotions with good information for her so that she can make good life decisions. There's 3 overall purposes of emotions in humans. One is communication and connection. Our emotions help us connect with other people and communicate with other people. They can also motivate us to take action or signal that we have a need. So we want to feel all our feelings, listen to them, and learn. And I mentioned toxic positivity earlier. We don't want to just say, oh gosh, I just got to be positive. Well, sometimes our self-talk is like that, right? We have toxic positivity self-talk where we think we got to pick ourselves up and not feel sad. There, so many people have it worse. I have no right to feel this way, right? But that is not always healthy because, again, your feelings have important purposes. So we have to feel them to heal them. We don't want to get stuck. We don't want to feel them and then get stuck and wallow for our whole lives in 1 or 2 difficult emotions. But we also don't want to just push them aside. We've got to feel them to heal them. So here are some of the purposes behind some of our feelings. Anger is often a protective response. It indicates that a boundary has been crossed. It can be a very powerful change agent once you hear the message and then use your wise mind to create an action plan. But sometimes it's actually protecting you from another more painful emotion that you don't want to feel, like sadness, fear, grief, disappointment. So sometimes we have to get through that layer and feel those feelings we don't want to feel so that we can heal them. Sadness often signals a loss or that something needs to be released. Fear alerts you to a threat, either real or hypothetical. And then you can assess the level of danger and take action if necessary. Some of our fears are irrational. So we got to talk to ourselves, use compassionate self-talk and say, all right, I know you're scared of this, but let's look at the statistics here, or let's look at the, the how likely it is that this would really happen. What could I do to help me feel better about that? Well, let's see. Let's say you're afraid of a fire happening in your house. So then maybe you look up the Red Cross and you start, oh, I could do more in my house to protect it from fires. So you think, okay, it's very unlikely that I'm going to have a fire, but now I'm prepared if I do. And now you've felt your fear and taken action on it. Okay. Guilt signals a disconnect between our actions and our values. So if we feel guilty, it means we did something and we feel bad about it. And then we can take ownership of that and vow to do better next time. But like I said, if you're feeling guilty about resting, that means you don't value rest, and you should. So it's not the action that's the problem. It's not that you've done something wrong and you need to do better next time. You need to reassess your values, because maybe it's your values that's the issue and you really don't need to be feeling guilty. But if you've hurt somebody and you feel guilty about it, that means that, you're a good person and you want to fix it and do better next time. Irritation tells you that you need space. Tells you that maybe you need to sit down and do a meditation away from your family. And jealousy is just an arrow pointing to what you desire and you do not yet have. You don't need to feel shame for feeling jealous of something or somebody. It's an arrow saying, that's what I want. And I don't have that yet. So you can think about, well, what do I need to do to get there? I like this graphic, How to Feel Your Feelings. Hey, it's from Hey Amber Ray. I really like that account, where you can say, what am I feeling? Where do I feel it in my body? If it could talk, what would it say? Whoops. What might this be teaching me? What do I need right now? And what's a tiny step I can take to meet my need? I like that tiny step part, because we can have big growth over time by taking lots of tiny steps, and then it's not so overwhelming. And this is also a great thing to teach your students. So how to feel your feelings: recognize, accept them, investigate them. How does it feel? Where am I feeling it? What sensations do I feel? And then nurture. What do I need right now? What would be the kindest, most loving thing I could do for myself? It's a little bit of like the reflective journaling. How do I feel and what do I need? That's like a little bite of fully feeling our feelings, right? Just kind of a quick way to do it. All right, and then just a couple more slides to go. Here are more self-care strategies and habits. You can listen to music that helps you feel calm for 5 minutes. I talked about meditation and self-compassion, reading, mindless TV. Nothing wrong with that. I know that you're not watching TV all day, every day, because you don't have time. So I'm not worried about you overdoing it. Watching a couple of mindless or feel-good shows on the weekend or at nighttime, that's great. If that helps you. Set better boundaries. And if you're not sure how to do that, there's a lot of good books or Instagram accounts that can help you. Find a creative outlet. If you're a creative person, you're going to need that outlet, or you might start to feel kind of restless. So if you have that creative energy inside of you, you got to let yourself get it out. So if you're a creative person and you've kind of let go of your outlets, think about integrating those in your life again. Singing, drawing, painting, playing an instrument, dancing. We can get a lot of creativity out in teaching, but sometimes it's not quite enough to really cut it. Spend time with animals, spend time with friends. Some people benefit from taking 5 minutes every morning to clean their desk. Me personally, I love Tai Chi, specifically Qigong. I try to do about 10 minutes or so of that every day, and it helps me so much. I love that. I love it. It just feels so good to my body. You might need more protein. You can keep some quick protein protein snacks at your desk, a handful of nuts, or a protein bar. Write a thank you note to someone. Actually, expressing gratitude to others is a good self-care habit. I used to keep a notebook of the positive notes that I got, from parents or my principal. Anytime somebody would give me a little positive note, I would keep it in a notebook, and then I would read it if I needed a little pick-me-up. I also love to keep on my phone quotes that inspire me. That's another thing I do on Instagram. I have like a file that I go to of quotes that I come across that inspire me. And it's important that we connect with each other as teachers to share our experiences, share our feelings, and finally laugh. Spend time with people who make you laugh, watch comedy, read funny things. So to prioritize self-care, you've got to change your views on rest and self-care. Rest should not be viewed as a reward. It should be viewed as an essential tool for human productivity. You can say no. You don't need to volunteer for stuff. If you can pair a new habit with an established habit, this is some of the best advice I've heard for establishing new habits, is pairing it with an existing habit. So you're going to get in the car every morning so you can play an uplifting song that really gets you going, or play classical music if that puts you in a good headspace. As soon as the kids leave the classroom, you might do 60 seconds of mindful breathing. Or before you eat lunch, do a 3-minute body scan. I talked about this, replace one session of checking your phone with 2 minutes of reflective journaling, or go for a walk every day at lunch with a friend. You've got to prioritize and protect your new habits because they are easy to break. So you really have to commit to them until they become automatic. And then revisiting your plan. You can put your finishing touches on your plan. I recommend printing it out and putting it somewhere that you'll see it. Otherwise, it'll just kind of get lost on your computer. You can start with one strategy a week and then add another and another, and then check in and see how it's working, revise as needed. And I hope that you'll enjoy that and get ready to thrive. So the last thing I'm going to share in the chat is, sorry, let's see. Okay, last thing I'm going to share in the chat is a Qualtrics survey. If you guys would please take this survey, and it won't take very long, I would really appreciate it. It helps ensure that we get funding. It helps give feedback. So I'm going to just put this survey in the chat. And if you don't mind going on really quick, hold on. Just copy it. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead. Let's see, did it go? Oh, I don't know if it got posted. There we go. Okay, the survey is right there. It'll just take a couple of minutes, and I'm going to go ahead and stop recording. And if you have any questions, and one more thing for those of you who are watching this recorded, if you have any questions, feel free to email me at trow@fullerton.edu if you'd like any of the files that I shared with the live participants, or if you would like the PowerPoint or just have any questions, feel free to email me and I would love to hear from you. All right, and thanks for watching.